There were live cameras on the five, and Jessica Tarlov and Greg Gutfeld were having another fight. Their on-air rivalry has been built for a long time on heated arguments about crime, immigrants, and who is responsible for running the government. But this argument didn't stay the same. Control was lost in real time as the back and forth became personal and shouts rose. When producers stepped in, the cameras stopped rolling, and Tarlov was let off the set. Fox won't ignore what happened because it went too far. A heated argument between Fox News co-hosts Jessica Tarlov and Greg Gutfeld has become one of the most talked-about moments on the network. It started when managers were seen asking Tarlov to leave the show. TV's stage right. The fight happened during a long discussion about immigration, the role of the president, and Donald Trump's return to the political stage. At the start of the show, the hosts argued about Trump's past comments about immigration. Gutfeld said that voters supported Trump because they were fed up with institutions being hacked, like refuge and birthright citizenship policies. Tarlov didn't agree, so she pushed back, showing a difference between people who are in the country legally and those who aren't. Gutfeld kept talking over her and supporting Trump's way of leading, so she couldn't even get her point across. He said that Trump's speed and willingness to work with the media were different from Biden's quieter style. As the argument between them got heated, Gutfeld used the polls to say that Trump has shown that he has the support of the people by rolling back policies from the Biden administration, such as the DI projects, stricter enforcement, and allowing transgender people to play sports. But Tarlov replied right away, questioning what it means to rule by the will of the people. She warned against cruel politics that looks like kindness. But when she said that, people in the crowd laughed at her, which probably made her feel worse. What they said hit a breaking point when they talked about work culture and social welfare, with Tarlov standing up for Americans who are weak. As the friendly conversation turned into a heated argument, the managers had to step in and take Tarlov away. Suddenly, the show cut to a commercial. It's interesting that this isn't the first time that Jessica Tarlov and Greg Gutfeld have had a big argument about a subject. She speaks for the left, while he speaks for the right. This means they often disagree on different subjects, like the time they were talking about the famous Charlie Kirk incident face-to-face. In September 2025, on Fox News' The Five, a heated argument broke out between co-hosts Tarlov and Gutfeld as they talked about the shooting death of right activist Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, died while speaking at an event. This started a big argument that almost got worse. At the round table, Tarlov, who always speaks for the liberals, warned people not to make broad comments about political unrest. She said that any claim about the case needed to be backed up with strong facts and background information. She used the death of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and other tragedies to show that political unrest isn't just caused by one side of the political spectrum. Gutfeld didn't agree with what she said at all. During Tarlov's speech, he even cut him off, arguing that the real question was why violent cases like that one lately seemed to mostly come from the left. When Tarlov asked about references to other events, Gutfeld lost it and told her, "Don't play that nonsense with me." He then threw out the idea of a case from both sides. Things got tense very quickly. Gutfeld asked if many people had even heard of Hortman before she died, saying that her death didn't get as much attention from the media as Kirk's. He didn't agree with Tarlov's point of view, and even told her that issue is over. But that made her even worse. A lot of people watched this online because the two are once again on different sides, arguing in public over facts at a sensitive time for the country. But this isn't the first time they've fought over the both sides debate. While they were hosting The Five, the two reporters fought over the idea of seeing things from both sides. However, there was a shocking disagreement when they were arguing strongly about the abortion laws. On a September 2024 episode of The Five, Tarlov and Gutfeld got into another heated argument about abortion policy, which is one of the main areas of disagreement between the two in the country right now. The argument began with Gutfeld saying that the problem of abortion wasn't important to the country in the upcoming election because President Trump and the Supreme Court had essentially given control over abortion back to the states. He said it out loud. Abortion is no longer a national problem. This means that women voters don't have to make it their only goal. He said that the issue was now more about local voters than about the president. Tarlov strongly disagreed, questioning both the premise and the truth of what Gutfeld said. She used what Trump said recently as an example. Just like in Florida, he was ready to allow abortions after 6 weeks, but his team later took back what they said. Then she asked, why did Trump change his mind about that? She said that Trump's political message and stand on reproductive rights were not always clear. As they often do when they don't agree, they kept talking over and then cutting each other off. Gutfeld was talking about the conversation in terms of the election as a whole. Gutfeld said the problem was politically diffused and no longer central to national decision-making, while Tarlov said that shifting political realities and real-world effects were more important. Positions and ongoing state restrictions on abortion kept it strongly in the political conversation. Gutfeld and Tarlov have had many fights over the years, and it gets too personal at times. Gutfeld said something that hit too close to home one time, and Tarlov had her own response. Fox News co-hosts Gutfeld and Tarlov got into another public spat on an episode of The Five in 2022 over the tone and feeling they used when talking about Elon Musk's social media activity and rumors about the attack on Paul Pelosi. The moment started when the panel talked about Musk's deleted tweet in response to a Hillary Clinton post about the event. Tarlov criticized how quickly false information spreads, and Gutfeld said Musk's comments had just told a woman she was getting too upset. As the conversation went on, Tarlov made a funny but serious point of saying, HR watches this. The other hosts laughed because it was clear she was telling him of the rules and training for the job. As a joke, Gutfeld asked, is that a threat? Good for you. Even though the argument got heated, it didn't stop the section like when Tarlov was taken off the set. When the video clip went viral on social media, it was talked about by a lot of people. Even though a lot of people are used to the back and forth, it seemed normal to them because they are the Five's biggest argument opponents and everyone always wants to know what they're like in real life. Insiders say that Tarlov and Gutfeld's real-life relationship isn't just acrimonious disagreements, despite how often and strongly they argue on radio. They also respect and support each other professionally and personally. Everyone thinks that the dramatic verbal fighting that happens on TV is a sign of genuine dislike between the two, but people who know them well have said that their relationship is different when they're not on TV. When they're on TV, Tarlov and Gutfeld always have a disagreement about important political topics like immigration and the role of the president. Most of the time, these arguments get heated, which makes the audience respond strongly. The only liberal voice and the conservative panelists, on the other hand, love to argue about ideas, which is what they forget about these discussions. Tarlov said that the way the show is put together is like how people talk to friends and family who have different opinions. In other words, she doesn't really hate anyone, not even Gutfeld. If you look away from the camera, they're not exactly enemies, but that doesn't mean they are close friends either. In a private moment, Gutfeld told Tarlov she was sorry for her loss and was there for her when she came back to the studio after her father's death, urging her to take thanks for her time and letting her know that the team will be there for her during a tough time. You might think they would be fighting all the time on TV, so this is very different from what you would expect. Sources close to the show also said that the 5 judges usually have to get along off-camera to keep the show's chemistry, even if they argue on screen. People have talked about the show's chemistry, but it's always made clear that the fact that Tarlov and Gutfeld argue a lot during arguments is just part of their job and doesn't mean they are personally hostile. Gutfeld also said that getting angry is normal for them on radio and that he and Jesse Waters really like Tarlov. He also said that how they feel about each other is 2 ways. People who watch Fox News see Tarlov as a liberal contrast to Tarlov, who is a conservative host. The two of them have openly made up on air, even after big fights, like the heated debate about political violence in September 2025. Later, Gutfeld said he was sorry for raising his voice and that the subject was personal. Tarlov made it clear that she wasn't mad at him. This is just one of the times they show support for each other by making friendly moves behind the scenes. This shows that they get along well, which makes their arguments pretty effective without showing personal hostility. But it's interesting that you can learn about more than just this competition on Fox News. A lot of people pay attention to the competition between Gutfeld and Brian Kilmeade, which you may have seen if you watch a lot of Fox News. Greg Gutfeld and Brian Kilmeade have a feud that has become one of the most talked about relationships on Fox News. However, it's not a real rivalry. It's more of a complicated mix of on-air banter, different styles, and self-aware humor. Gutfeld, who co-hosts The Five and is the host of Gutfeld, is known for talking in a rude, sarcastic, and angry way. It's not a surprise that he made Tarlov so mad that Fox had to ask her to leave. Kilmeade, who is one of the key hosts of Fox and Friends, has a more traditional view. There is an honest style to broadcast news. Because they have different voices and ways of talking, they have had many vocal fights on air, broken up by jokes, interruptions, and sharp comments that play to their different personalities. Kilmeade's serious analysis is sometimes cut off by Gutfeld's humor. This is especially clear in panel talks, where Gutfeld's quick wit pushes back against Kilmeade's delivery. Gutfeld's joke that Fox and Friends might as well be cheering for Kilmeade was an interesting moment. A quip that got a lot of attention from the crowd and showed how the two were at odds with each other. Both hosts have said that a lot of what happens on radio is just for fun, even though it looks like things are tense or competitive. When it comes to looks, as Kilmeade smiled and asked Gutfeld, "What's wrong with you?" They talked about Gutfeld's book. "Why do you care so much about me?" Gutfeld told Riley that people would worry if they weren't crazy about someone. Kilmeade then said that the jokes didn't upset him, which shows that the competition is mostly friendly. Behind the scenes, Gutfeld and Kilmeade get along well with each other. There is another person who wants to beat Gutfeld, though. A lot of Tarlov's competitors are also Fox News hosts. First, Jesse Waters, who is friendly with Gutfeld on the show. On The Five, Jessica Tarlov and Jesse Waters have